in Buckingham Palace ever since then. Now, there are 3 ways, guys, of getting into Buckingham Palace. Way number 1 is they open it up for sort of 2 months of the year. And you guys can go into Buckingham Palace. It costs you £20. £20 to go in and see 19 of the 776 rooms. So is it worth it for over £1 a room? I don't really think so. They kind of show you the first room, push you to the second, and hurry you through from room to room to room. So that's quite expensive. Your second way of getting into Buckingham Palace, do something amazing with your life and become knighted or a dame. Here in England, we are rubbish at all sports. We're really bad at sports. Therefore, when we do win something, which hardly ever happens, they often get knighted straight away, which I find quite funny, really. But we won an Olympic gold yesterday in the Winter Olympics. Anyone see that? We won a Winter Olympic in the skeleton, which I thought was quite exciting. But that lady, I'm sure she will come back and she'll get like an MBE or an OBE very, very quickly. That's always what happens here in the UK. But guys, your third and final way, if you don't want to do the 2 ways I mentioned, to get into Buckingham Palace, is to break into Buckingham Palace. Now I'd like you guys to tell me, before I tell you about some of these break-ins, whether the Queen is at home today. Now the flag is flying up there, and I could tell by looking at the flag that the Queen is not at home today. When the flag is flying above Buckingham Palace there, guys, if it's the Union flag, many of you know it's a Union Jack, but it can only be called the Union Jack if it's flying at sea. The Union flag, which is flying today, you can just about make out the Union flag there. I can. That means the Queen is not at home. When she is at home, guys, the Royal Standard will be flying. You know the one with the golds and the reds and the blues and like the gold lions on it and stuff? That's the Royal Standard. When that's flying, the Queen is at home. She was at home yesterday, so she's not home today. For example, in 1991, a US parachutist decided to float down over London. He looked down to Buckingham Palace and he saw the Royal Standard flying. He's like, she's in. So he decides to land on his parachute by the flagpole there. And he looks down into the royal courtyard. And the Queen looks up to him. And he exposes himself to her. USA! Classy stuff going on. Classy stuff. In the year 1941, a deserter from the army. He didn't want to fight in World War II. He decided the best place to hide from the army wasn't in his mate's house. It wasn't in the countryside, it was in the royal bathroom here. That's where he decided to hide. He hides behind the shower curtain. I may have made that up. But the Queen Mother comes into the royal bathroom to have a shower and finds this army deserter in her bathroom there. And she's like, what the hell are you doing here? She gives him a lecture on the importance of national service and sends him back to the army from there. But by far, the most hilarious break-in at Buckingham Palace happened in 1982. I'm going to tell you guys some stories today, and you may not believe they're true, but everything I tell you today is true, I promise you that. 1982, a drunk, crazy Irishman by the name of Michael Fagan, at 5 in the morning, climbs over the 14-feet fences to get into Buckingham Palace. He smashes all of the windows to get in there. He sets off so many alarms that the guard that hears these alarms thinks nobody could set that many off and puts it down to a malfunction and turns the alarms off. He doesn't even go and look. So this drunk, crazy Irishman, Michael Fagan, strolling about the palace, enjoying the paintings, sitting himself on the throne, having a great time. He then gets thirsty, as you do when you're drunk. He finds the Queen's royal wine collection and he starts drinking her wine as well. So he's drinking her wine, getting more and more drunk. Then, as you do when you're drunk, you get hungry, don't you? Well, there's no kebabs in Buckingham Palace here. The only food that's around at that time in the morning, it was on the floor, and it was in a dog bowl. And it was the Queen's corgi dog food. So he starts eating the dog food as well. He's eating the dog food, he's drinking her royal wine, he's getting really, really drunk, and then he decides that he needs to go to sleep. What better place to sleep than in the Queen's bed? So he goes in to the Queen's bedroom. Now the guard that was guarding outside the Queen's bedroom had left his shift early to walk the dogs. So there was no one guarding outside. So Michael Fagan, this drunk, crazy Irishman, strolls in and sits on the end of the Queen's bed. The Queen is awoken to find this drunk, crazy Irishman, dog food round his face, her best bottle of wine in his hand. She's like, what the hell's going on here? So they have a conversation. This lasts for about 5 minutes. They haven't got much in common, as you can imagine. After 5 minutes or so, Michael Fagan says, Queen, can I have a cigarette? She's like, I'm the Queen of England. I do not smoke. So she phones for a cigarette for him. She picks up the phone beside her bed, pushing a panic button 100 times. She rings the guard and she says, excuse me, there is a drunk, crazy Irishman smelling of dog food with my best bottle of wine asking for a cigarette. Could you bring him a cigarette, please, and help me? So Michael Fagan was arrested. And Michael Fagan was only ever charged for stealing a bottle of wine. The reason being, guys, was because it was a guard's error who turned the alarms off without looking. It was a guard error who left his guarding from the Queen's bedroom early. So therefore there were 2 civil errors and he could only be charged for stealing a bottle of wine. So Michael Fagan, a real sort of hero, right? I think that's fantastic. Fantastic sort of stuff going on. Guys, this statue here to your left-hand side, the lady looking out down the mall there to the left is called Queen Victoria. You can see her to the left-hand side. We'll get a better view of her in a few moments' time. But the lady to the left of that is Queen Victoria, our longest-serving monarch of all time. She served this country as our Queen for 63 years and 7 months. We talked about her, about the assassination attempts on her already, but she served this country from the age of 18. When she became Queen, she was quickly married, and they married her to her cousin, Prince Albert. Now you may think it's strange, them marrying into their family, but it happens all the time. Our current Queen at the moment is married to her second cousin. So she marries Prince Albert, and she's really in love with him when she's 18 years old. In their first 10 years of marriage, they are not seen out in public very often at all. In their first 10 years of marriage, they have 9 children. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but I think I know what's happened there with Queen Victoria. In the year 1861, her husband, Prince Albert, he dies tragically of typhoid fever, and the Queen is heartbroken. She goes into the next 40 years of her life as the Queen into deep mourning, and she wears black for the rest of her life. And this kind of symbol of her, when you look back on her, you'll see she's got a very sort of solemn, miserable face, and that was kind of the general look she had for the rest of her life, being very sad and heartbroken. So it's quite a sort of love story that happened between her. But our Queen at the moment, Queen Elizabeth II, if she wants to become the longest serving monarch of all time, she needs to live to the year 2015. Now, considering her mother, the Queen Mother, lived to 101, and our Queen is currently 83. I think she's going to be the longest serving monarch, and I hope she is. She doesn't really say anything controversial, she keeps her comments to herself, and she served this country as our Queen very well indeed over the last 50 odd years. So I really like our Queen, and I think she's done well. Her husband, on the other hand, Prince Philip, every time her husband Prince Philip comes out in public, he makes some sort of offensive comment that offends someone. Have a look at them on the internet, guys. I can't say most of them because they are so rude. But for example, he was talking to a Scottish driving instructor, and he asked the Scottish driving instructor, how do you keep the locals off the booze long enough for them to get through a test? So it's quite sort of harsh and out of order, and that is one of the most tame comments he's made over the years. But our Queen as well, guys, is known as quite a modern Queen. She's known as quite modern. Now, she drives around here. When you see her, she'll be driving around in a bulletproof and a bomb-proof Bentley. It's the only car in England that doesn't need a registration plate, and it's got loads of headroom. Now, our Queen's a very little old lady, so why does she need headroom? For her crowns, all of that. She has over 100 carriages, horse-drawn carriages, the heaviest one being 4 tons with gold on top of it there. The Queen as well sent her first email in 1986. She's emailing away in 1986. The American President, Barack Obama, when he came here, he gave our Queen the present of an iPod. Random, isn't it? He gave her an iPod. It's really funny. He gave our Prime Minister gave him like this amazing carved boat, and Barack Obama gave him some DVDs. I don't really know. But anyway, she gave the Queen an iPod, and the Queen said, no, I do not want the iPod. I have an iPod already. Which makes you wonder, guys, what the hell does the Queen have on her iPod as music? I'm thinking she's like walking the dogs and she's got sort of ABBA Dancing Queen or Queen Greatest Hits or something like that. I don't know what she's got, but I think it's brilliant that she has an iPod as well. Now, can we have a vote, guys? A lot of people here, it's kind of a debate that goes on constantly of whether we should have our royal family or not. Who out of you guys thinks that our royal family, we should get rid of them? Who thinks they are a waste of the taxpayers' money, they serve no purpose, and we should not have our royal family anymore? Anyone think that? One all, sir. There is still a law in existence which is called the Treason and Felony Act of 1848. And it is a crime to say, even in the most peaceful of ways, that we should get rid of our Queen and become a republic. It's the only punishment in the UK by the penalty of death. So if you're going to say it, there's some police over there. I would keep your comments a bit more quiet from there, which is crazy. But I think our royal family's a good thing. I'm very pro-monarchy, and I think they're a good thing. They bring a lot of tourism into this country. And for example, Prince Harry getting drunk